My name is Bacon Ninja, and I have a problem. I have been building way too many micro quads lately. All the quads back there, somewhat obfuscated by my fuzzy ball of hair, are big quads. But on the very top row, I have lots of little quads. I have a lot of them. It's been a problem lately. But today we're going to talk about one in particular, the most recent one that has been feeding my addiction, and it's called the Jitterbug. And no, I'm not talking about a phone made for people that are technologically impaired or need large buttons due to eyesight complications. And I'm not also talking about the dancing craze that, was like way back in the day either. I'm talking about this Jitterbug right here. Hey everybody, I'm Bacon Ninja, and like I said before, I have a micro quad addiction lately. I don't know what it is, but the little tiny things make me just want to play with them and solder on them and torture myself while building them. And when Luke Unger from Unger CNC asked me if I wanted to try his Jitterbug 2-inch freestyle frame, I was interested because I've been building just a series of small whoops in the meantime while trying to find my perfect freestyle build in the 5-inch class for the summer. And this is it. This is the Unger CNC Jitterbug. It is a 2-inch design, and I put all the parts on myself. Luke did not provide those, but Luke did provide the frame. And it's very clear from getting this frame in the mail that he takes a lot of pride in making these frames for people and sending out the best quality product he can. But before we get into how I feel about the frame and things I liked or didn't like, let me just quickly go over the specifications of it for you, and then we're going to talk about how it flies, because that's what you're here to find out, I'm sure. The Jitterbug is a frame designed for 2-inch props. It has a 1.5mm top plate and a 2mm unibody bottom plate, meaning that the arms and the bottom plate are all one assembly. It does have this strut design to maintain stiffness, which isn't uncommon in this size class of quad. In fact, this is my Darwin Baby Ape, Tiny Ape Freestyle. It has kind of a strut design, and alongside that is my Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle, which has kind of an open strut design. So this kind of class of frame is pretty common to see the strut design, and I'm really glad that Unger CNC brought that into this one, because with the monoplate bottoms, you tend to feed your vibration easier into the gyro section, so stiffness is important. And I will say that they work really well to maintain the stiffness of this bottom plate. You can see that I can bend it here. And if I hold that a little bit further, let me put my thumbs toward the middle, I can bend it like a little bit, but that is not much for a micro. It's a pretty stiff little dude. And on top of all of the stiffness, you get some really great stack mounting options. It has 16x16mm, 20x20, as well as 25x25, along with cutouts for bottom mounted USB-Cs, which is really good because I run the Darwin 15 amp ELRS AIO in most of my quads of this scale, and I have yet to find a frame that just natively takes where that USB is. I almost always have to shave them out or make a custom spot and modify the frame to be able to put that downward facing USB in, and this one just mounted straight up. It worked really, really, really well. You could tell he definitely thought about the potential of that kind of AIO in there, along with some of the Happy Model ones when he designed the location for that USB. And when it comes to motor mounting, we do have the 4-hole pattern, which, unlike my Darwin frame here, which has 4 holes now, but only came with 3, is perfect to mount up most of the modern high-end or even medium-end or even, cheaper motors that you'd want to put on something like this. These are the RC Power 1202 Plus or 1202.5 in 11,500 kV. And I picked all the parts for this. Like I said, Luke just sent me the frame and I built the quad around it. And what I actually did was tore up what I had in my Tiny Ape Freestyle here and just straight dumped it in there and added a digital VTX. What I am running on it, like I said, was the RC Power 1202 Plus or 0.5 motors in 11,500 kV. I'm running the Darwin 15 amp ELRS AIO, which has a full-size ELRS receiver on board, which is pretty cool because this frame actually has a darn near perfect way to mount the full-size ELRS antenna on this rear brace here. I have the cable coming out the side through the middle standoffs, and then literally it's a little off of straight, but I have it zip tied here, which is just about perfect. Because that antenna is a gigantic pain to put in any other frame that I've had of this size class. Cramming the antenna in there literally fits almost nowhere on these things. Anyway, so it was great that that fit properly. I'm also running the Walksnail 1S kit, so that is their nano camera and their 1S VTX. I am running that off of a 5-volt regulator, though, on the AIO, because I am running the Tattoo 2S 450 milliamp hour high volt packs. So this is a 2S quad. The specs on Unger CNC's website, though, say that they recommend between 2 and 4S, although I will say a 2S pack of this size takes up a pretty good chunk of the top plate, so a 3S or 4S would be probably pretty hard to fit on there. I would plan on making this a 2S build, and it has worked really, really well for me. But I have to just stop and say, I have flown this frame for the past 3 weeks now. 3-ish weeks. I have flown a lot of packs on it. I have not seen many frames where this much care and attention was paid to their production. This is a small shop. Luke Unger makes these in a small place, has his own website, and he sent this to me just because he wanted me to try it after he saw me love making so many other micros. But you can tell that he put a lot of time and attention into this. There are chamfered edges all the way around, right here on the arm, the back of the arm. The only spot that I've seen that isn't chamfered is inside of these cutouts, where it would be really hard to do with tooling, or inside of these slots. But even inside the arms here, in the cutouts, yeah, all chamfered, all perfectly chamfered. And the spacing for these 25 by 25s, and even the 20 by 20 and 16 by 16, is absolutely perfect. The spacing for all the motor holes, absolutely perfect. Tons of room for the C-clip inside the motors, which can be a big problem a lot of times. But you can tell that it was a labor of love to design this frame for him, and producing it, he puts a lot of himself into it. So kudos to Unger CNC for blood, sweat, and tears they have put into this thing. Clearly, they enjoy making this product for FPV pilots, by FPV pilots, and put a lot of attention to detail in it. Now you're thinking, that attention to detail means this frame is probably very expensive. This is a little shop somewhere that needs to make money. Yeah, they are, but it's only 24 bucks. And the frame comes with all the stack mounting equipment you need, and it's actually really good quality stack mounting equipment, including some TPU printed spacers, a TPU printed camera holder, a TPU printed antenna holder, and M2 lock nuts for the top, which most things I've seen that come with anything are going to be nylon lock nuts, and I have seen some of these things come with nylon screws even. Yeah, that's not flying here. He includes everything you need. It's high quality. It is to the best of his ability, which is apparently a pretty high ability. Even the TPU prints are really, really nice. So, if you're looking at something like the Tiny Ape Freestyle or the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle, if this is something you've got flying and you want to build one of these, would I recommend this frame? Well, let's hold up a minute, because we need to talk about how it actually flies. And to do that, I'm going to show you this footage of how it flies. Because here you see me doing the flippities and the floppities in a parking lot, and you'll probably notice some shake in the quad. Well, that's actually not the frame's fault at all. I will show you in a minute how it flies when the wind isn't so bad. I was actually using my Top Tees anemometer wind metery thing to measure how much the wind was. Because when it comes to micros, wind can be very impactful on it. The wind was basically a steady 10 miles an hour with gusts up to 20. So most of the air was pretty dirty on 2-inch props. These are small props. A little bit of a wind gust makes dirty air for them, and then you get a whole lot more prop wash than you should. And I do know for a fact that the prop wash is not that bad without the wind. By the way, if you want one of these Top Tees anemometers, I have the link in the description below. They are very cheap. It is not an affiliate link. I am not making any money off of it. But if you want a cheap way to know what your wind is, anyway, that's what it is. But let's continue looking at the footage, because I continue to do the flippities and the floppities and the floopities. I did all of them. I did a bunch of stuff. So basically I'm flying this as hard as it'll go. If this is not your kind of flight style, I'm sorry. This is what I felt like was a good way to test how hard you can push it. Now again, a lot of the prop wash is coming from the fact that it's windy on this particular day when I'm flying, and this flight is going to come out to about 2.5 minutes. Not quite more than that. But again, mostly because of the wind and the fact that I'm just pushing this quad really hard. I am playing around with all of the low to the ground stuff that I could be doing. I am going from 0 to 100% throttle quite a bit. And you will see that in the Walksnail OSD. This is the internal recording of the flight. that you're seeing here with my OSD laid on top of it. Just so you know, the OSD is probably not quite perfectly aligned because it's hard to get perfectly aligned with this stuff, so the timing may be a little bit off. But I did wind up doing some tricks you do with bigger quads with this. I did power loop through the pavilion during this flight, and it was pretty good. But I also ended the flight with a crash into the pole. Yeah, I crashed into a pole in this flight. I actually crashed this quad a whole lot. I did a whole lot of crashing of this quad. I did not take it easy on this frame because I wanted to see if you bought one, what would actually happen to it. And all of the stuff that I showed you about speccing it here a minute ago was actually footage I shot just now after all those flights. So you can clearly see I didn't break an arm or anything. It really leads me to believe the carbon quality is very good on this. It is not cheap quality carbon. It is very good. Now let me show you a couple of indicators of wear that I have noticed, and one thing that I think could be just a little bit better about it, but it's just a really minor gripe. And what I mean by indicators of wear are things like this, where the nose is starting to splinter right here, and this is after some hard crashes into concrete and of course that pole. And then a little bit on the motor protection, the very end of the horn here is starting to kind of rub a little bit on all of them, but it's not that big a deal. I also have a little bit of wear on the head screws here, the cap head screws, rather than the button heads. And that's the one thing that I'd recommend you do. If you get this, I understand it comes with really good quality hardware. I'd recommend that you swap out to button head if you're not going to run TPU feet on it. And so far on Unger CNC's webpage, I haven't seen any TPU foot designs for it. Not that you couldn't make them or they don't exist. But if you're going to run it without the TPU feet, which I feel like a lot of people are in this size class just to save the weight, if nothing else, then you probably want to switch all of the bottom plate screws out to a cap head nut, including the stack screws, just to be safe. If nothing else, make sure your motor screws are cap head because they will hopefully touch the ground first and you won't rub off your nice button head screws and not be able to take them off. But like I said, the signs of wear on this really indicate that it is good quality farbin. It's good quality farbin. It's good farbin. It's good quality carbon. I had to think about it for a minute. My brain literally just stopped and reset itself. And now that this train is back on the tracks, hopefully for at least a few more minutes, we can talk about what this flies like without that kind of wind. So I did go on this flight, which is a flight in my front yard, and it lasts for very nearly 4 minutes. It's just a few seconds shy of 4 minutes, and I'm just flying smoothly around the yard, kind of looking at things, not really doing anything too crazy, keeping the throttle at a normal between 20 and 40% hover, and a little bit of forward movement. And you can see that it's actually really stable. Now, in this wind scenario, there wasn't 10 miles an hour. There was a little bit of wind. There's never no wind where I live. It was around 5 miles an hour, which is much more reasonable for this size of quad. But you can see that there's not any super crazy jello or artifacts of gyro feedback, any noise getting to it. And I don't have any black box logs to show you because this board does not have an onboard black box. And none of the boards I have that are any good, actually, have a black box on board. So I don't have any black box footage, but I will tell you the tune you're seeing this thing run on right now is the Betaflight stock tune. I haven't messed with any sliders at all, actually. All I did was set an 80% motor output limit and let it go. I didn't even change the idle speed of the motors. I did almost nothing to this. I haven't even changed the filtering of it. This is out-of-the-box Betaflight. On the setup that I have, I'm running GymFan 2-inch props with the 11,500 kV RC Power 1202s on 2SHV with an 80% motor output limit at a weight of around 95 grams because my build weighs 95 grams. So if you're in that zone, the Betaflight stock tune is actually fairly decent for it. But you can see that there's not a lot to indicate frame resonance here. It is a very well-built bottom plate design. It's a single bottom plate, which has to be done correctly to get all the vibration out. A lot of times we get sandwich plates on bigger quads and split decks and all kinds of other things to help fight vibration, but this is doing a really good job with just a single plate. Now, the downside to single plate designs is that if you break an arm, you have broken it. But like we talked about, the carbon quality seems to be really, really good, and I don't think you're going to have any problems at the weight of this quad with breaking arms unless you were doing something outlandish. like falling 100 feet from the sky or getting run over by something. I don't think you're going to run into a lot of that. The strut design really does do a good job of keeping the arms attached, and I have crashed this into a lot of things. But now for the real question, and the reason I'm sure you're actually here to watch this video. Would I recommend that you buy this? If you are in the market for a 2-inch build that you want to build yourself, none of this comes pre-built. If you want to take on the adventure of building a 2-inch micro quad yourself, well, hell yeah, I'd recommend this. This is a great 2-inch frame. The attention to detail that Unger CNC put into this, it clearly, like I keep saying, is a labor of love. A lot of thought, thorough thought, and design choices that make a lot of sense for this kind of build. It's very good. It will fit the 1S HD0 board, it will fit the 1S walk snail board, and just about anything analog that would mount up to a 25x25 or a 20x20 if you're using a 20x20 microstack. Or you can even go with those 16x16 really weird ones that like sometimes come with an analog VTX. The one thing you can't really do with this is put DJI in it. A Vista won't fit in this, although Unger CNC does say that if you use taller standoffs, you totally can get a Vista in it. So that's something to keep in mind. But yes, I absolutely would recommend that you build on this platform. It has held up remarkably for me. It flies very well, required minimal tuning. And the whole build, this thing, like I said, with all the parts, is about $250, and that is for Walksnail Digital. If you wanted to go analog, you could totally do it for under $200. And you get a lot more than you would with something like this Darwin Tiny Ape Freestyle, where the frame is literally hot garbage and it gets you by, but it's nothing special at all. It's kind of press fit together. It has 3-hole motor mounting patterns that nothing else will bolt to. This will bolt up all your standard parts. And Unger CNC is a small shop, and we really should be supporting those in FPV. We need to keep our small shops alive because those are the kind of things that drive innovation in the FPV market, and they will just die out if we do not buy things from them. If all we ever buy from is Get FPV and Race Day Quads, although Race Day Quads and Pyro Drone actually do sell a lot of small manufacturer gear, but if all we buy is big names, the little guys are going to die off, and we're going to stop iterating for new designs and cool new things, and that's one of the things we love about FPV. So if you want this frame, I have a link in the description below at Unger CNC's website where you can purchase it for $24. And have it shipped to you, and I don't have any indication of how long that takes, but I know that Luke over there is probably going to cut them like mad to get it done, because he cares enough to put this much effort into the frame. He is going to take care of you when it comes to customer service and shipping and things. Thank you very much, Luke, for letting me try your frame out. And I also want to say thank you to the patrons who supported this video and let me buy all the stupid stuff to put on this quad, because I made some choices of pretty premium gear on this thing, even though some of it came off of my Tiny Ape. Yeah, couldn't do that without you patrons. You wouldn't get to see these kinds of builds if those people didn't support me the way they do. And if you feel like supporting me, yeah, link in the description below. If not, I'll just keep doing stupid things, and you can watch them and laugh at me, knowing that I've never received $1 from you. That's perfectly fine. Maybe it makes the laughs better. I don't know. And if you don't feel like becoming a patron, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support that way too. Thank you all very much. And yeah, that's it. If you want to build a 2-inch, go buy this frame. I highly recommend it. It does a very, very good job. And I'm going to leave you with more of the flight footage from my park session, which is most recent and had the best lighting, which is why I used it. Yeah, so until next time, stay greasy. Watch this footage, and I'll catch you later.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. trying to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.